There is a silence that arrives just before sleep, a soft pause, like the universe inhaling and holding its breath, as if waiting for something unseen to unfold. In that silence, the edges of thought blur, and the ordinary world begins to dissolve into something stranger, something deeper. It is here, in this fragile moment of surrender, that we find the first hint of a mystery larger than ourselves. For what is sleep, if not a rehearsal for the greater rhythms of existence? Each night we fall away from waking life, letting go of our identities, our names, our daily struggles, only to enter a realm of darkness where dreams stir like hidden galaxies. And each morning we awaken as if reborn, carrying faint fragments of another reality we cannot fully explain. The cycle repeats endlessly, a pattern etched not only into our biology, but perhaps into the very fabric of the cosmos itself. Scientists have long studied sleep, tracing its stages, its chemical signals, its deep evolutionary purpose. And they have studied the universe, measuring its expansion, its origins, its possible endings. What is striking, when one looks closely, is how similar the rhythms of the cosmos appear to the rhythms of the mind at rest. Both move in cycles. Both drift between silence and noise, darkness and light, forgetfulness and memory. When we close our eyes at night, we do not vanish. Instead, we pass through phases, the shallow drifting of early slumber, the plunging stillness of deep sleep, and the surreal flickering of REM, where the mind conjures its own realities. And when we look at the universe across vast stretches of time, we see a similar descent and ascent, epics of fiery birth, epics of cooling stillness, epics of violent creativity, and epics of silence. The stars themselves appear to breathe, to awaken, to rest, to vanish, only for new ones to be born again. Perhaps then, reality itself is not a straight line, but a cycle. Perhaps it does not move only forward, endlessly stretching into nothingness, but instead turns inward, repeating its own patterns like the steady pulse of a sleeper's breath. And if that is true, then the universe might be engaged in its own vast sleep cycle, dreaming worlds into existence, forgetting them in silence, and awakening again to dream anew. This is not merely poetry, though poetry has always brushed against this thought. Ancient myths, from Greece to India to the Americas, have told us that the universe is born, dies, and is reborn. The Hindu tradition speaks of Brahma's days and nights, vast epochs where creation blossoms and then dissolves, only to return again. The Stoics of Greece imagine the cosmos periodically burning in fire, then rising again like a phoenix. The Maya described time itself as a cycle, spinning endlessly through ages of light and shadow. All these stories reflect a human intuition that what we see in ourselves, the cycle of sleep, the cycle of breath, the cycle of seasons, might echo something far larger and more mysterious. Modern science, too, whispers in this direction. The Big Bang describes a universe that emerged from silence, expanded into brilliance, and continues to stretch outward into the unknown. But some cosmologists suggest that this expansion might not last forever. Gravity may pull it back, or perhaps space-time itself oscillates, collapsing and exploding like a heartbeat that never ceases. In this view, the cosmos is not a single story, but an eternal rhythm, a cosmic sleeper drifting between awakenings. And if the universe itself is caught in a sleep cycle, then what we experience each night is not an isolated biological necessity, but a microcosm of something fundamental. Our personal sleep, the nightly surrender of consciousness, may be a reflection of the greater order to which we belong. Just as a wave is part of the ocean, our descent into sleep might be part of the oceanic cycle of existence itself. It is tempting to think of sleep as absence. The world disappears, time becomes vague, the self dissolves. But neuroscience tells us that sleep is not absence at all. It is activity, hidden and essential. The brain reorders itself. Memories consolidate, emotions soften, the body heals, the mind renews itself. Sleep is not nothing. It is preparation, incubation, and quiet construction. And perhaps the same is true for the universe. When it sinks into silence, when galaxies drift into darkness, it may not be an end. It may be a preparation for another dawn. To see reality this way is to soften our fear of endings. For if the universe breathes, then death is not annihilation but exhalation. Forgetting is not erasure, but release. Silence is not emptiness, but a pause between notes. Each night when we fall asleep, we practice this truth. We let go, and yet we return. We dissolve, and yet we awaken. The whisper before dreams, then, is not only personal. It is cosmic. It is the voice of reality reminding us that we are participants in something immeasurably larger. Our nightly descent is a mirror of galaxies cooling, of stars fading, of time itself entering its deep rhythms. And our awakenings mirror the sudden fire of new suns, the birth of planets, the rise of civilizations. We are, in every breath and every sleep, echoes of the universe itself. This way of seeing does not require abandoning science. It does not require discarding physics, cosmology, or biology. Instead, it invites us to weave them together with imagination and poetry, to see that facts and wonder are not enemies, but companions. To say that the fabric of reality might be a sleep cycle is not to claim certainty, but to open a space of reflection where science and philosophy can rest side by side, like twin dreamers. And in that reflection, something calms. The weight of existence becomes lighter. The fear of finality becomes less sharp. The pressure to always move forward, to always achieve, begins to soften, replaced by the recognition that rest is part of the rhythm of life, and that silence is as essential as sound. Just as music would be unbearable without pauses, reality itself would be meaningless without its great rests, its periods of darkness, its vast cosmic sleeps. So as you listen, let your thoughts drift gently. Imagine yourself not as a single person falling into sleep tonight, but as a fragment of the cosmos itself, following its own infinite rhythm. Your breathing is the universe's breathing. Your silence is the universe's silence. Your dreams are the universe's dreams. And your awakening tomorrow is the same miracle that births stars from darkness. The whisper before dreams is the beginning of a journey. It is an invitation to let go of the narrow and awaken to the vast. It tells us that reality is not a single thread stretched thin, but a woven fabric that folds and unfolds in cycles, endlessly, tenderly. It reminds us that we are not merely dreamers, but also the dream, carried in the sleep cycle of existence itself. Tonight, as you surrender to sleep, you join that cycle. You enter the silence that has always been, the rhythm that holds galaxies and stars, the endless weaving of memory and forgetting. And in that silence, you are not alone. You are part of the great sleeper, part of the great dream, part of the whisper that will someday awaken again. There is a rhythm in everything that lives. You can hear it in the slow tide of the ocean, in the faint thrum of a heartbeat, in the gentle rise and fall of your own chest as you breathe. Inhale, exhale. Expansion, contraction. Presence, release. This rhythm is not confined to biology. It may be written into the very structure of reality itself. When astronomers look into the night sky, they see galaxies receding, stars moving further apart, the very fabric of space stretching outward. The universe, we are told, is expanding. It is not only the things within it that drift apart, but space itself, the silent stage upon which existence unfolds, that grows wider with every moment. Scientists call this cosmic expansion a discovery born from observing the redshift of galaxies. The farther a galaxy is, the faster it moves away, as if everything is caught in a great outward breath. But what if this expansion is not the whole story? What if, like breath, the universe does not only inhale but also exhales? What if the outward rush is but half of a cycle, destined to be followed by a drawing inward, a contraction, a collapse? Some cosmologists imagine this possibility, a universe that swells, then shrinks, only to begin again. A cosmic respiration, vast and timeless. This idea carries with it a strange comfort, for it means that the universe is not racing endlessly toward emptiness, but is instead engaged in a rhythm as natural as our own breathing. We, who lie down at night and surrender to the rhythm of breath as we drift into sleep, may be echoing something infinitely greater. Our lungs rise and fall, and so too, perhaps, does existence itself. Imagine the universe as a sleeper. With each breath, it dreams. The inhale is creation, galaxies flaring into brilliance, stars burning, life arising on scattered worlds. The exhale is dissolution, stars fading, galaxies colliding, structures falling back into silence. Between breaths there is a pause, a stillness like the fragile moment between waking and sleep. And then the rhythm begins again, timeless, unhurried, eternal. In the 20th century, physicists described models of a cyclic universe, where the Big Bang was not a singular event, but part of an eternal sequence of bangs and collapses. The cosmos, in this vision, is endlessly reborn, like the dreamer who awakens only to fall asleep again. Though modern measurements suggest that our universe may expand forever, the metaphor of breath continues to linger, because it resonates not only with mathematics, but with our deepest intuitions. For every inhale contains possibility. It is the intake of air, the expansion of space, the surge of energy that gives birth to form. Every exhale is release. It is the letting go, the dissolution, the return to quiet. Neither is complete without the other. A breath that only inhales would suffocate. A universe that only expands would drift into endless silence. A rhythm requires both. Life requires both. Perhaps reality requires both. In our own sleep, the rhythm of breath is our anchor. As we drift through dreams, the breath steadies us, carrying us between realms of waking and silence. Perhaps for the cosmos, expansion and contraction are its breath, the anchor of its own vast sleep cycle. To see the galaxies stretch apart is to watch the inhale of reality. To imagine them returning is to imagine the exhale, the eventual surrender into stillness. And what beauty there is in this thought, that the same force that moves your chest as you lie resting tonight is the same rhythm that governs stars and galaxies. You are not separate from the universe's breath. You are made of it. Each atom in your body was forged in the breath of stars, born in their violent exhalations, scattered across space, drawn into the body you now inhabit. You are, in the most literal sense, woven from the respiration of the cosmos. Science teaches us to measure these things, to write equations that describe the speed of expansion, the density of matter, the pull of gravity. Yet beyond numbers, there remains a mystery. Why should the universe breathe at all? Why should it not remain still, unchanging, unmoving? Why does it carry within it a rhythm, a pulse, a cycle? Perhaps the answer is not one science can fully capture. Perhaps rhythm is the very essence of reality, the pattern from which all else emerges. In breath, there is trust. The inhale arrives without command. The exhale follows without effort. We do not force it, we surrender to it. So too may the cosmos be surrendering to a rhythm larger than itself, a pattern that requires no reason, only being. Tonight, as you rest, you may feel the soft rise and fall of your own breathing. Let it remind you of galaxies drifting apart, of space stretching into silence. Let it remind you that you are not alone, that your body is in harmony with a rhythm that spans billions of light years. Every inhale you take is mirrored in the cosmos. Every exhale you release is part of the universe's own great song. The breath of the cosmos is not a theory to be solved, but a lullaby to be felt. It tells us that creation is not a single spark, but a cycle, that endings are not absolute, but transitions, that silence is not nothingness, but the pause that allows the rhythm to continue. The universe, like you, is breathing. And within that breath, everything lives. When night deepens and the world grows quiet, the body begins its descent. Muscles loosen, thoughts lose their edges, and consciousness slowly recedes as though sinking into a vast ocean. The descent into deep sleep is not abrupt but gradual, layer by layer, until one arrives in a stillness so profound it feels like silence itself. In this stillness, the self disappears. There are no names, no roles, no stories, only rest. The universe, too, seems to know this pattern. Just as the sleeper descends into silence, so does the cosmos drift into long epochs of darkness and quiet. Stars, brilliant and short-lived, eventually exhaust their fuel. Their light fades, their heat dissolves, their remnants scatter. Galaxies, once ablaze with activity, slow down as their stars die, leaving behind only shadows of their former glory. Even time, on the grandest scales, appears to lead toward stillness, toward a cooling, darkened expanse. Physicists call this the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy, the tendency for systems to move from order into disorder, from activity into equilibrium. Over unimaginable stretches of time, the stars themselves will dim, the galaxies will fade, and the universe will approach what some call the heat death, a state of stillness where energy is evenly spread, where nothing new can emerge. It is a cosmic sleep without dreams, a descent into silence that could last forever. And yet, just as our own sleep is not nothingness but renewal, perhaps this cosmic stillness is not emptiness but a stage within a larger rhythm. For when we sleep, our bodies heal, our minds reset, our memories quietly reorder themselves. The silence of sleep is not an ending, but a preparation for awakening. Could the silence of the universe be the same? Could the cooling, the darkening, the long descent into quiet be a phase, a necessary part of a cycle beyond our current comprehension? To think this way is to see stillness not as absence, but as depth. When we fall into deep sleep, we lose awareness, but the body does its most vital work. When stars collapse, when galaxies dim, something is happening that we cannot yet fully imagine. Perhaps the cosmos itself is entering its most necessary rest. Silence becomes not an erasure, but a mystery, a hidden place where the next dream is prepared. The descent into stillness can feel unsettling. We are creatures of noise, of movement, of brightness. The thought of a silent universe, empty and dark, unsettles the waking mind. And yet, every night, we accept our own darkness. We close our eyes and allow ourselves to vanish into silence. We trust that we will return, that stillness will give way to renewal. In this, perhaps, lies the deeper truth. Stillness is not something to fear, but something to enter with faith. Ancient traditions spoke of this as well. Mystics described the dark night of the soul, a period of deep silence where the self is stripped bare, where nothing stirs, yet something profound is being transformed. Buddhists speak of emptiness not as void, but as fullness, a stillness that contains all potential. Even physics, when speaking of the vacuum, tells us it is not truly empty, but filled with quantum fluctuations, hidden possibilities. The universe, even in silence, may be carrying the seeds of what comes next. In sleep, the descent into stillness leads to dreams. In the cosmos, the descent may lead to another awakening, another cycle of creation. But even if it does not, even if the silence is final, there is a strange beauty in imagining the universe at rest. For after its long labor, after its bursts of fire and its eons of brilliance, perhaps silence is not a tragedy but a gift. To rest after such vast creation is not failure, but completion. Tonight, as you lie down, you may feel this same descent. Your body softens, your thoughts drift, the world recedes. At first you may resist, clinging to wakefulness, but then you surrender, allowing stillness to take you. And in that surrender, you find renewal. In the same way, the universe too may be surrendering, falling slowly into a silence that is not destruction but peace. The descent into stillness is the most natural thing. It happens in sleep, it happens in life, it happens in the cosmos. It is the hidden counterpart to activity, the balance without which existence would collapse. And so, when you think of the universe growing quiet, do not imagine only loss. Imagine instead a vast sleeper, descending into deep rest, preparing for something unseen, carried by a rhythm older than stars themselves. The stillness is not the end. It is the pause before the next breath, the silence before the next note, the darkness before the next dream. Long before there were eyes to see or minds to wonder, the earth itself was dreaming. It was not a dream of words or images, not the kind of dream we carry with us upon waking, but a dream woven of chemistry and chance, of oceans and atmosphere, of heat and silence. In this dream, lifeless matter began to stir, as if reality itself, after a long descent into stillness, exhaled and imagined something new. The story of life is the story of the first dream. For billions of years, the planet was a barren world. Volcanic eruptions painted the sky in fire, meteorites rained upon its surface, oceans churned with restless energy. And yet, in that restless state, something remarkable began to happen. Molecules collided, joined, broke apart, and rejoined again. In the vast ocean of chance, patterns began to repeat. Chemistry began to lean toward biology, and the inanimate world began to shape the possibility of animation. Scientists still puzzle over the exact pathway. Some suggest that life's spark emerged in deep-sea vents, where heat and minerals created natural laboratories, churning out complex molecules in the darkness. Others imagine tidal pools, where sunlight and evaporation concentrated chemicals until they self-assembled into something greater than themselves. Still others point to the possibility that life's building blocks came from the stars, delivered by comets and meteorites carrying the seeds of potential across the cosmos. However it began, something miraculous occurred. A molecule capable of copying itself emerged. That act, replication, was the beginning of life's long dream. For replication allowed memory. A molecule could carry forward a pattern, pass it on, and in doing so, leave a trace of continuity. With each copying, with each small error and change, complexity grew. From that point forward, Earth was no longer silent. It was dreaming. When we close our eyes at night and drift into dreams, we too create worlds from nothing. Images arise, characters move, stories unfold, all from the invisible depths of the mind. The Earth's first dream was no different. Out of lifelessness, stories began to unfold. The story of cells, the story of cooperation, the story of struggle and survival. Life's earliest chapters were written not in words, but in the language of DNA, of proteins, of the ceaseless dialogue between chemistry and environment. There is something wondrous in imagining this beginning as a dream. For dreams are not bound by reason. They allow leaps of imagination, connections that waking thought cannot grasp. Perhaps life itself was the dream of matter, a sudden leap beyond what physics alone might dictate, a flowering of creativity within the silence of the cosmos. In those first oceans, microscopic beings floated, multiplied, and slowly changed. They learned to harvest energy from light, giving rise to photosynthesis, filling the atmosphere with oxygen, transforming the very air of the planet. From simple beginnings came complexity, from single cells came colonies, and from colonies, the first multicellular organisms. The dream deepened, layer upon layer, until eventually eyes formed to see, fins to swim, wings to fly, voices to sing. Every living being today is an echo of that first dream. The structure of your cells, the code within your DNA, the rhythm of your heartbeat, all are continuations of the ancient whisper that began billions of years ago in silence and chance. In this sense, we are not separate from the first dream of life. We are that dream still unfolding. What is remarkable is how sleep itself may carry traces of this ancient story. Even the simplest creatures rest. Tiny worms, insects, fish, all display cycles of activity and quiet, patterns of renewal. Sleep is not confined to humans. It is woven into life itself. And if life was the universe's first dream, then sleep may be the rhythm by which that dream sustains itself, ensuring its continuation across generations. To fall asleep each night is to return, in some small way, to the beginning of life's story. For in sleep, we surrender control. We let go of the conscious mind, the carefully constructed self, and sink into a state that echoes the primordial stillness from which life first arose. In dreams, new realities are woven, as though the universe continues to practice the act of creation through us. Some philosophers have asked whether life is simply the universe awakening to itself. Perhaps the cosmos, vast and silent, needed a way to know its own existence. And so it dreamed of life, of beings capable of reflecting, wondering, and seeing. If so, then the emergence of life was not an accident, but an inevitability, the natural unfolding of a universe longing to awaken. Yet even if life was rare, even if it was only a fragile spark in one corner of an indifferent cosmos, it remains no less miraculous. For from stillness, there came movement. From silence, there came song. From darkness, there came eyes that could look back at the stars. The first dreams of life are still with us. Every plant unfurling its leaves, every animal breathing in the night air, every person drifting into sleep carries within them the ancient memory of those beginnings. Life is the dream that never ended, the dream that continues to write itself with every heartbeat, every breath, every awakening. And perhaps this is why the metaphor of sleep is so fitting. For just as sleep cycles through stages, life has cycled through epochs. The dream of the single cell gave way to the dream of oceans filled with creatures. That dream gave way to forests, to rivers, to birds and mammals. And now, it has given way to us, beings who can not only dream, but can also wonder about the dream itself. Tonight, as you drift into your own dreams, you join this lineage. You are continuing the first dream, carrying forward a thread that began in silent oceans billions of years ago. You are, in every sense, the dream of the universe remembering itself. And just as the sleeper carries the seed of tomorrow within their rest, so too does life carry within it the possibility of futures yet unseen. The first dreams of life were not the end of the story, but the beginning. And from those beginnings, the universe's sleep cycle entered a new phase, a dream that would only deepen, expand, and unfold across the ages. To look closely at reality is to discover repetition. Patterns return, echoes reappear, rhythms ripple outward from the smallest scales to the largest. The universe seems to favor cycles, weaving them into every layer of existence. Each breath, each sunrise, each orbit of a planet, each birth and death of a star, these are not isolated events, but recurring movements nested one within another like Russian dolls. Life itself is built upon cycles within cycles, an intricate layering that sustains both order and change. Begin with the body. Each day it wakes, moves, grows tired, and sleeps again. Each heart beats in a steady pulse. Each lung rises and falls with breath. Each cell follows its own rhythms of activity and rest. Our bodies are not linear machines, but circular systems bound to the turning of time. Even within us, tiny molecular clocks tick in rhythm with the day, regulating sleep, metabolism, and mood. This circadian rhythm is so deeply embedded that even when removed from sunlight, the body continues to follow its inner cycle, guided by a hidden memory of light and shadow. These personal rhythms are part of larger earthly rhythms. The earth itself turns, giving us night and day. It orbits the sun, giving us seasons. The moon circles the earth, pulling the tides in and out, reminding us that even the ocean is governed by cycles. Farmers have known this since the beginning of civilization, planting with the seasons, measuring time by the waxing and waning of the moon. Animals migrate with these patterns, birds navigating vast distances by the pull of seasons, fish returning to ancient spawning grounds, trees flowering and shedding in eternal recurrence. Beyond Earth, the cycles grow vaster. Stars are born in nebulae, vast clouds of dust and gas collapsing under gravity until nuclear fusion ignites their cores. They burn, shine, and eventually fade. Some collapse into white dwarfs. Others explode as supernovas, scattering elements that will one day form new stars, planets, and perhaps life. The iron in our blood, the calcium in our bones, the oxygen we breathe, all were forged in ancient stars that lived and died before our sun was even born. Our very bodies are cycles within stellar cycles, our existence made possible by the deaths of suns. Galaxies too follow their own rhythms. They collide, merge, and reshape themselves over billions of years. Spiral arms twist and reform, stars cluster and disperse, black holes consume and release. Even the expansion of the universe may itself be cyclical, as some theories suggest, an eternal alternation between big bangs and big crunches, between creation and dissolution. If true, then our cosmos is not a one-time event, but a perpetual rhythm, an infinite sleep cycle where universes are born, live, fade, and begin again. Civilizations are no exception. History tells the same story: rise, flourish, decline, and fall. Empires bloom with creativity and order, only to fracture and collapse, making way for new ones. The Roman Empire, the dynasties of China, the civilizations of the Maya, all had their own arcs, their own dreams that eventually dissolved back into silence. And yet, from their ashes, new cultures rose, carrying fragments of memory forward. Human history is not a straight line, but a spiral, circling through patterns of order and chaos, knowledge and forgetting. Even memory itself follows cycles. Neuroscience tells us that during sleep, memories are consolidated. The mind replays the day's experiences, strengthening some, erasing others, weaving meaning from fragments. What we remember and what we forget is not random, but part of a cycle, a rhythm of preservation and release. Just as the universe preserves certain stars and dissolves others, the mind keeps what it needs and lets the rest return to silence. Why cycles? Why should reality favor repetition over straight lines? Perhaps because cycles balance. A line moves toward an end, but a cycle sustains. A heart that beats endlessly forward without rest would burn itself out. A civilization that only rose and never paused would collapse under its own weight. Cycles introduce rest, silence, forgetting, and in doing so they make continuity possible. The sleep of the body, the pause of winter, the stillness of a dying star, all are not ends but intervals, allowing the rhythm to continue. To see life this way is to see it as music. Notes alone mean little without rhythm, without the silence between them. A melody arises not from constant sound, but from the pattern of sound and pause, of repetition and variation. The universe, too, may be music, the slowest, grandest song, with galaxies as chords, stars as notes, and lives as fleeting harmonics. Every cycle is a phrase in that song, returning again and again in endless variations. There is comfort in this view, for cycles mean that nothing is ever truly lost. The sun sets, but it will rise again. Winter freezes the land, but spring will follow. Stars die, but their ashes give birth to new worlds. Even we, though finite, are part of larger cycles. The cycle of matter, the cycle of memory, the cycle of life itself. When we fall asleep, it feels like disappearance, but it is only preparation for awakening. When we die, it may feel like an ending, but perhaps it too is a return, emerging back into the larger rhythm from which we came. In every direction, cycles unfold cycles. Your breath joins the turning of the earth. The Earth's orbit joins the rhythm of the solar system. The solar system drifts in the spiraling of the galaxy, and the galaxy itself is part of the greater rhythm of the universe. To be alive is to be woven into these patterns, whether we notice them or not. Each night, when you close your eyes, you are participating in the ancient rhythm that began before stars, before time, before memory. The fabric of reality is not linear but circular, and within each circle lie smaller circles, repeating endlessly. To rest in this truth is to rest in harmony with existence. It tells us that silence is not a void but a turning point, that endings are not final but transitions, that every dream belongs to a larger dream. We are not outside these cycles. We are the cycles, moving, repeating, spiraling, breathing. To live is to dream. To sleep is to join the rhythm. To awaken is to begin again. When the body lies still and the world grows quiet, the mind begins its own performance. Sleep does not silence thought, it transforms it. Behind closed eyes, a vast theater awakens, one where the ordinary rules of time, identity, and space dissolve. Dreams flicker and shift, weaving stories from fragments of memory, emotion, and imagination. Each night, without effort, we enter this hidden theater, a stage where the subconscious writes plays from the raw materials of our lives. Scientists call this nightly process the architecture of sleep, a structure as carefully arranged as a cathedral. Sleep moves in stages, each with its own role. Light sleep eases us across the threshold, slowing the heart and breath, relaxing the muscles, preparing the body to let go. Deep sleep follows, a realm of restoration where the body repairs itself, growth hormones surge, and cells mend. But then comes the most mysterious act, rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. It is here, in this strange and liminal state, that dreams unfold in vivid detail. In REM sleep, the brain is almost as active as it is when awake, yet disconnected from the body's movements. The eyes dart beneath closed lids, chasing invisible scenes. Neurons fire in chaotic bursts, weaving images, sensations, and emotions into strange, symbolic tapestries. The logical centers of the brain rest, while the emotional and creative centers surge with activity. It is no wonder that dreams often defy reason, yet carry powerful feelings, leaving us haunted or uplifted upon waking. But what is the purpose of this nocturnal theater? One theory suggests that dreaming is the mind's rehearsal, a way to simulate scenarios, confront fears, and test possibilities without risk. In dreams, we can face dangers, navigate unfamiliar landscapes, or wrestle with unresolved conflicts. Another theory points to memory. During REM sleep, the brain sifts through the day's experiences, strengthening some connections, discarding others, and weaving fragments into long-term storage. Dreams may be the surface ripples of this deep work, a reflection of memory being rewritten and integrated. There is also the mystery of creativity. Countless artists, scientists, and thinkers have credited dreams with inspiration. The periodic table, famous melodies, mathematical proofs, all have emerged from the landscape of sleep. In the dream state, freed from the rigid structures of waking logic, the mind can combine elements in ways the conscious self might never imagine. It is a playground for imagination, a reminder that sleep is not absence but creation. For all their strangeness, dreams follow their own rhythms. Some recur, echoing unresolved themes. Others fade upon waking, slipping through the fingers like mist. Yet even forgotten dreams may shape us, leaving behind traces of feeling, subtle adjustments in mood or perception. The theater of the mind is not only for entertainment. It reshapes who we are, silently, night after night. There is a paradox here. When awake, we search for meaning, for order, for clarity. Yet in dreams, meaning is fluid, shifting, sometimes nonsensical. A door becomes a river. A friend becomes a stranger. A moment stretches into eternity. Perhaps the mind needs this freedom, this nightly escape from the rigidity of daylight thought. Perhaps without dreams we would become too fixed, too rigid, unable to adapt to the ever-changing flow of life. The ancients believed dreams were messages, prophecies from the gods, whispers from ancestors, or windows into the soul. And though science offers new explanations, the mystery remains. Why do we dream in symbols? Why do recurring images haunt us? Why do some dreams bring comfort, while others leave us trembling? Even the most advanced neuroscience cannot fully explain why the mind creates this nightly theater. It remains one of the great enigmas of consciousness. But perhaps the answer lies not in solving the riddle, but in experiencing it. Each dream, however fleeting, is a reminder that reality itself may not be as fixed as it seems. Our waking life feels solid, yet in dreams we accept impossibilities without question. What if waking and dreaming are simply two modes of existence, two sides of the same cycle, one orderly, the other fluid, one logical, the other symbolic? Together they create a balance, a rhythm of consciousness. In this sense, the dream is not an escape from reality, but a mirror of it. The universe itself may be a kind of dream, shifting, symbolic, filled with mystery. Just as dreams blur boundaries between self and other, time and space, so too does reality blur when viewed from the vast scales of cosmology. Perhaps the mind's nocturnal theater is not separate from the cosmos, but an echo of its deeper patterns, a miniature stage reflecting the grand cycles of creation and dissolution. Every night we are drawn into this theater, whether we remember it or not. Every morning we awaken, carrying with us fragments of the stories woven in darkness. The theater may dissolve with the light, but its influence lingers. In this way, sleep is not simply rest. It is participation in an ancient rhythm, a nightly rehearsal for the great mystery of existence itself. Every system, no matter how vast or minute, is bound by a single law: the gradual drift toward disorder. This is the second law of thermodynamics, the principle of entropy. It tells us that energy disperses, that heat flows from hot to cold, that structures eventually break down. In a sense, entropy is the quiet undertow pulling all things into dissolution. Stars burn out, mountains erode, civilizations crumble, and bodies age. Nothing, not even the cosmos itself, can resist this slow unraveling. At first glance, entropy might seem like the enemy of life. It is the measure of disorder, the guarantee that every flame will eventually flicker and die. Yet life itself is born in defiance of entropy. Organisms are pockets of order, local sanctuaries that temporarily resist the universal slide toward chaos. A cell uses energy to repair itself, to build complexity, to maintain balance against the relentless push of disorder. A forest draws sunlight into leaves, capturing photons to weave sugars and oxygen. A human brain consumes energy to sustain thought, memory, and emotion, each spark of consciousness a triumph over decay. But resistance is never permanent. Renewal is not escape. Every act of preservation, every moment of order, comes at a cost. The universe allows order only by dispersing energy elsewhere. The flame of a candle shines briefly, but in shining it releases heat, smoke, and ash, increasing entropy in its surroundings. Likewise, the intricate order of life requires constant input: sunlight, food, breath, without which it collapses back into stillness. Renewal is temporary, a fragile pause in an endless drift. This rhythm between entropy and renewal can be seen not only in physics, but in sleep itself. When we are awake, we expend energy in thought, movement, and perception. Our minds grow cluttered with impressions, our bodies wearied by the strain of action. Sleep comes as a renewal, a nightly reset. During deep sleep, the brain clears metabolic waste through channels that open like hidden rivers. Memories are sorted, useless details discarded, important ones strengthened. Muscles repair, hormones rebalance, cells regenerate. In this sense, sleep is the body's nightly act of defiance against entropy, a ritual of renewal that keeps decay at bay. Yet even here entropy cannot be defeated, only postponed. We awaken restored, but the cycle repeats. Every day we spend energy, every night we restore some of what was lost, but never all. Over years and decades, entropy advances slowly, marking itself in wrinkles, in weakening bones, in fading memory. Renewal slows while disorder accelerates. This is the human condition, a balance that tilts gently but inevitably toward dissolution. But there is beauty in this truth. Without entropy, there would be no change, no time, no movement. A perfectly ordered universe would be frozen, silent, unchanging. It is entropy that drives evolution, that allows stars to ignite, that fuels the cycles of birth and death. The falling apart of one thing allows the arising of another. The death of stars scatters heavy elements into space, seeding the birth of planets and life. The fading of one forest allows another to rise in its place. Entropy is not only dissolution, it is also transformation. Renewal, then, is not the denial of entropy, but its companion. Together they form the pulse of existence, the breaking down and the building up, the ending and the beginning. Just as sleep follows wakefulness, night follows day, and winter follows summer, the universe itself seems to breathe in this rhythm. Galaxies collide and collapse only to spark new generations of stars. Civilizations rise and fall, leaving behind ruins that inspire the next to build. Even within our own lives, moments of loss often become the soil from which growth emerges. Consider the forest floor covered in fallen leaves. What appears as decay is also renewal. The leaves return their nutrients to the soil, feeding the roots of future growth. The process is slow, quiet, and often hidden, but it is essential. In the same way, sleep may feel like stillness, but beneath its silence, renewal is at work, weaving resilience into the fabric of life. Entropy reminds us that nothing lasts forever, but renewal reminds us that nothing is wasted. The two are not enemies, but partners in the endless cycle of transformation. Without entropy, there would be no reason for renewal. Without renewal, entropy would swallow all too swiftly. Together they create the rhythm that sustains existence, the rise and fall that makes life not only possible, but meaningful. And perhaps this is why the metaphor of sleep resonates so deeply with the cosmos. Just as our bodies require rest to repair and rebalance, the universe itself may undergo cycles of entropy and renewal on scales far beyond our comprehension. Some cosmologists imagine a universe that will one day reach maximum entropy, a heat death where all motion ceases. Others suggest that even then renewal might arise, through quantum fluctuations, through new cosmic births, through endless cycles of collapse and rebirth. In our small, fleeting lives, we mirror these grand rhythms. We wake and sleep, spend and restore, break down and rebuild. We cannot escape entropy, but we can learn to live within its dance. Each moment of renewal, each breath, each dream, each act of kindness is a quiet triumph against disorder. And though the balance will one day tip, though our bodies will one day yield, the cycle continues beyond us. Renewal follows entropy, and from our dissolution, new forms will emerge. To live, then, is to participate in this cycle, to embrace both the inevitability of entropy and the gift of renewal. Sleep is our nightly reminder of this truth, that even as disorder grows, restoration is always possible, and that every ending carries within it the seed of a beginning. Above us, scattered across the black canvas of night, are stars, ancient fires that burn with a quiet persistence. To the human eye, they seem eternal, fixed, unchanging. Yet behind their serene glow lies a hidden truth. Stars live, change, and die. They too have sleep cycles, patterns of birth, energy, and eventual fading. In their stories, we can glimpse the vast cosmic rhythm that echoes in our own smaller lives. Every star begins as a whisper within a cloud of dust and gas. In the cold darkness between galaxies, hydrogen and helium gather, drawn together by the invisible hand of gravity. Slowly, inexorably, these atoms fall inward, pressing closer and closer until heat ignites in their core. A star is born. It is not a sudden explosion, but a long awakening, a gradual stirring that turns darkness into light. Just as life begins with a breath, a star begins with fusion, the union of particles into energy, radiating outward as warmth and brilliance. This first stage, a star's main sequence, is its long daylight. For billions of years, stars like our sun burn steadily, balancing two forces in delicate harmony: the outward push of fusion and the inward pull of gravity. Like a body finding its rhythm, the star establishes balance, a cosmic homeostasis that allows it to shine. During this time, planets may form around it, life may arise, and civilizations may grow under its nurturing warmth. But no day lasts forever. Eventually, the fuel that sustains a star begins to dwindle. The steady rhythm falters, and gravity starts to press inward more forcefully. For smaller stars, this decline is gentle. They shed their outer layers in luminous shells, creating nebulae, celestial shrouds of color and light. At their center remains a white dwarf, a small dense ember glowing faintly with the last heat of fusion. Over billions of years, even that ember cools into silence, a black dwarf, cold and invisible. For massive stars, the ending is far more dramatic. When their cores exhaust their fuel, gravity overwhelms them in a catastrophic collapse. In a final moment of violence, the star explodes in a supernova, scattering its elements across space. Iron, oxygen, carbon, everything needed for planets, oceans, and bodies, bursts outward, enriching the cosmos. What once was fire becomes the foundation for future worlds. In this way, the death of a star becomes the beginning of something new. Out of ashes, new cycles emerge. The parallel to sleep is striking. Just as we exhaust ourselves through waking hours, stars consume their energy through eons of light. Sleep, like a star's collapse or quiet fading, is a surrender, a letting go. But from that stillness comes renewal. Stars scatter elements. Sleep restores memory. Stars collapse into black holes or white dwarfs. We retreat into dream and silence. Both cycles remind us that endings are not merely dissolutions, but transformations. There is also a poetry in the time scale. Human sleep lasts hours, but in those hours the body undergoes profound renewal. A star's sleep may last billions of years, yet in its end stages the cosmos itself is renewed. The calcium in our bones, the oxygen in our lungs, the iron in our blood, all were forged in the hearts of dying stars. We are, quite literally, the children of stellar sleep cycles. Every breath we take carries the legacy of countless stellar deaths and rebirths. This truth reshapes our sense of identity. To sleep is not only a biological necessity, it is a cosmic inheritance. When we close our eyes at night, we enact a rhythm that stars have followed for billions of years. Our fatigue mirrors their fuel exhaustion. Our dreams mirror their transformations. Our renewal mirrors the galaxies seeded by their deaths. We do not merely live under the stars. We live because of them. And yet stars themselves are part of larger cycles. Galaxies grow and evolve as stars within them are born and die. The universe itself may one day exhaust its fuel, drifting toward entropy. But just as stars explode into supernovae, some theories suggest the cosmos itself may one day collapse and rebound, entering a new cycle of birth. The rhythm of sleep, then, may not only be human or stellar, but universal. Imagine, for a moment, the Milky Way itself as a great sleeper, breathing in stars, breathing them out, exhaling supernovae, inhaling clouds of gas. Over eons, the galaxy changes shape like the rise and fall of a chest in slumber. Within it, stars awaken, shine, and sleep again. Within those stars, planets form. Upon those planets, life stirs. And upon one small world, creatures close their eyes each night, unaware that their private rhythm is a faint echo of the stars above. Perhaps this is why starlight feels so calming to us, why we can gaze at it for hours in quiet reflection. It is not only the beauty of distance, but the recognition of kinship. Stars remind us of cycles we cannot see in ourselves, the slow unfolding of time, the inevitability of change, the continuity between endings and beginnings. To look at a star is to look at a mirror stretched across billions of years. And so, when sleep comes, we might imagine ourselves not merely as individuals retreating into rest, but as part of a vast cosmic rhythm. Our dreams become nebulae, colorful clouds of memory and imagination. Our deep sleep becomes fusion, hidden work that sustains the structure of the self. Our awakening becomes a new dawn, like the birth of a star from darkness. Night by night, we rehearse the same story the universe tells on grander scales. The cycles of stars remind us that nothing is wasted. The collapse of a star gives rise to planets and life. The fatigue of the body gives rise to renewal and strength. Death itself, whether stellar or human, is not an erasure but a transformation, a turning of the wheel that makes new forms possible. We are born of stars. We live by their light, and one day the atoms that form us will return to their cycle, scattered once more into the night. In this way, the stars teach us the deepest lesson of sleep, that surrender is not loss but continuity. To rest is to allow change, to allow renewal, to participate in the great fabric of cycles that bind us to the cosmos. Just as the stars burn and fade, so too must we rest and awaken. Both are parts of the same rhythm, the endless breathing of reality itself. Night has always been more than the absence of day. It is a presence of its own, a great hush that falls over landscapes, a blanket that quiets the noise of the waking world. For humanity, night has always been mysterious, sometimes frightening, but also deeply calming. In its darkness, the stars appear, the imagination awakens, and the body prepares for rest. Yet night is not only an earthly experience. Across the universe there are greater nights, deeper silences, and vaster dark spans of time that mirror our own descent into sleep. Cosmic night begins with the spaces between stars. The human eye, even aided by the most powerful telescopes, sees light puncturing the black. But the truth is that the universe is overwhelmingly dark. Light is rare, scattered, and fragile against the immensity of void. For every galaxy, there are endless stretches of blackness where photons do not travel, where silence reigns. This is the cosmic night, a darkness that is not hostile but simply vast, waiting, still. It is in darkness that life learns to pause. Our ancestors, long before cities and electric lights, oriented their lives around the rhythm of the sun. Nightfall meant slowing down, gathering close, and surrendering to the vulnerable act of sleep. In a similar way, galaxies too exist in rhythms of light and dark, creation and stillness. Stars shine for a while, but between them lie gulfs of quiet. The universe itself seems to breathe, alternating between bright awakenings and long silences. Some cosmologists speak of the cosmic dark ages, a period after the Big Bang when the universe was filled with hydrogen gas, but no stars had yet ignited. For hundreds of millions of years, the cosmos lay in a kind of slumber, opaque, lightless, unilluminated. Only later, when the first stars kindled, did night break into a cosmic dawn. This early darkness was not empty of potential. It was a waiting, a gestation, much like the deep phases of our own sleep, when growth and repair quietly take place. In this sense, night is not an absence of activity, but a transformation of it. To the human body, sleep looks like stillness, but beneath the closed eyelids neurons fire, memories reorganize, cells regenerate. Similarly, the darkness of the universe conceals the slow work of gravity, drawing together matter, weaving galaxies, preparing the stage for light. What seems silent is in fact the birthplace of the next awakening. The cosmic night also stretches forward into the future. If the universe continues to expand and stars continue to burn out, there will come a time when galaxies grow dim, when stars collapse into black dwarfs, when the night deepens until no new light is born. This projected era, called the heat death of the universe, is a night on a scale beyond comprehension, a silence that could last trillions of years. The universe itself, like a weary traveler, may one day close its eyes. And yet, even this possibility carries a strange comfort. Just as our nights do not last forever, perhaps even cosmic night is not an end but a cycle. Some theories suggest that the universe may one day contract and rebound, beginning anew. Others propose that quantum fluctuations in the fabric of emptiness may ignite new bursts of creation. In this way, the cosmic night may be followed by another dawn, just as surely as our own mornings follow the darkness of sleep. Night has always been the time of dreaming. For individuals, dreams are not bound by daylight's rules. They blend memory, imagination, and possibility into stories that reshape the mind. If we extend this metaphor, perhaps the universe itself dreams in its long nights. The cosmic dark ages dreamed galaxies into being. The future night may dream new universes, born from the silence of the old. Just as we awaken from sleep with a renewed perspective, the cosmos may awaken with new laws, new worlds, new rhythms. There is a humility in recognizing that our small human nights are echoes of this larger silence. When we turn off the lights, when we let ourselves sink into the comfort of darkness, we are aligning with a rhythm that pervades all existence. We are not alone in sleep. The cosmos itself is a sleeper, alternating between fire and quiet, brilliance and shadow. To rest is to become part of that pattern. Night also teaches us about perspective. In daylight, our vision narrows to the immediate, the visible, the urgent. But at night the stars appear, and we are reminded of scale. We see not just the sky above us, but the immensity in which our lives unfold. Sleep, too, expands perspective, giving the mind distance from the struggles of the day. The cosmic night, vast and eternal, grants us the same lesson on an even greater scale. And yet, for all its vastness, night is intimate. It is when the world grows quiet that we hear our own breath, the beating of our own heart. It is when the stars appear that we feel both small and deeply connected. The cosmic night, though immeasurable, offers the same intimacy. It reminds us that silence is not emptiness but connection, a shared stillness in which all things rest. To imagine the cosmic night is to imagine peace on the largest scale. No clamor of cities, no flare of conflict, no restless striving. Only the quiet hum of expansion, the steady breathing of galaxies drifting in darkness. It is a picture not of despair, but of rest. A rest so complete that it encompasses everything, from stars to atoms, from galaxies to dreams. Perhaps this is why sleep, despite its vulnerability, feels so natural. We do not fight the night, we surrender to it. We trust that morning will come, that darkness is not forever. In the same way, perhaps the universe itself rests, knowing that from darkness new light will be born. The cosmic night, then, is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It is a reminder that even silence has purpose, even stillness has power. To look into the night sky is to look into both the past and the future, into the spaces between awakenings. It is to remember that life, growth, and renewal depend on rest, whether it be the rest of a body, a star, or an entire universe. And when we close our eyes at night, we join this larger rhythm. Our small act of surrender reflects the great silence that holds galaxies. Our dreams echo the hidden transformations of the cosmos. In every night of sleep, we are part of the cosmic night, carried gently by its vast, enduring hush. There is a quiet law that governs the universe, as steady as the pulse of a hidden drumbeat: entropy. It is the measure of disorder, the slow drift of systems from order into chaos, from structure into scattering. Every flame that burns, every star that shines, every heartbeat that quickens is part of this law. Nothing resists it forever. Entropy ensures that energy disperses, that organized forms unravel, that clarity blurs into diffusion. Yet in the same way that night carries within it the promise of dawn, entropy also whispers of renewal. For in its unfolding, patterns shift, and from the scattering of one arrangement, the seeds of another quietly emerge. This paradox, decay giving rise to creation, endings concealing beginnings, is woven deeply into the fabric of existence. The human body is a daily testament to entropy. Cells break down, molecules drift toward disorder, structures weaken. Sleep itself is a response to this unraveling, a time when entropy is gently managed, slowed, and momentarily repaired. During sleep, the body clears waste from the brain, resets synaptic connections, and restores balance. Entropy cannot be halted, but it can be countered with cycles of renewal. Each morning we awaken with restored clarity, proof that even decay is accompanied by subtle acts of regeneration. The stars too bow to entropy. A star shines because it burns, consuming its hydrogen in a slow but relentless fusion that releases light. Over time, this fuel diminishes. The brilliant order of a star eventually collapses into ashes, into a red giant or a quiet dwarf. But in that collapse lies renewal. The heavy elements forged in stellar cores are scattered into space, forming the building blocks of planets, oceans, and life itself. Entropy unravels the star, yet it also enriches the universe with new possibility. Galaxies follow the same law. They swirl with spirals of stars, but over eons their shapes distort, their matter disperses. And yet, even as galaxies drift apart, gravity carves new paths, matter reorganizes, new stars are born. Entropy dictates that the grand architecture of the cosmos will one day fade into stillness. But until then, it is a process not only of breaking down but of reshaping. The arrow of time points toward disorder, but along that path complexity arises, beauty emerges, and life blooms. Human cultures have always sensed this rhythm. Ancient myths speak of cycles of destruction and rebirth, floods that wash away civilizations only for life to begin again on cleansed ground, fires that consume forests followed by new green shoots in the ash. Entropy, though cloaked in scientific language, resonates with these timeless intuitions. It is not only a law of physics, but a universal metaphor for the way all things must change. The second law of thermodynamics teaches us that in a closed system, disorder must increase. And yet the Earth, bathed in sunlight, is not a closed system. Life exploits the inflow of energy to build order against the tide. Plants transform sunlight into structure, weaving green leaves from scattered molecules. Animals harness this order, carrying it forward in their movements, their creations, their thoughts. For a time, life is able to hold entropy at bay, to craft islands of meaning in an ocean of chaos. But even these islands are temporary. Entropy always has the final word. Our bodies age. Civilizations crumble. Stars collapse. And yet, in this truth, there is no cruelty, only inevitability. Renewal is written into the same process. The ruins of one era become the soil of another. The death of one star fuels the birth of countless others. Even as energy disperses, life finds ways to reconfigure it, to dance briefly against the current before surrendering again. Entropy also shapes our inner lives. Memory, too, is subject to its drift. Over time, details blur, moments fade, and the sharp edges of experience dissolve. But this softening is not always loss. Forgetting makes room for new experiences, for reinterpretation, for healing. Renewal often arises from what fades, not from what clings tightly. Like the universe, the mind reorganizes through its scatterings. Dreams are one of the most intimate examples of this process. As we sleep, entropy in the brain is managed through cycles of electrical activity. Memories are restructured, some strengthened, others dissolved. In the apparent randomness of dreams lies the renewal of mind. Entropy is not chaos without purpose. It is the reshuffling of possibility, the loosening of rigid patterns to allow for new connections. On the largest scale, physicists wonder whether entropy is truly an end or merely a transformation. If the universe drifts toward heat death, with energy evenly spread and no new work possible, is that the silence of conclusion, or the fertile ground for something else? Could quantum fluctuations in the emptiness ignite new bubbles of order, new universes budding from the quiet? If so, entropy would not be a terminus, but a doorway, the final phase of one cycle before the birth of another. This vision is both humbling and soothing. To imagine entropy not as a force of despair, but as a rhythm of renewal allows us to see our own lives in a gentler light. Our bodies age, yes, but in aging we give rise to new generations. Our creations crumble, but from their remnants new visions emerge. Even in forgetting, we make space for new stories. Entropy becomes not a thief, but a teacher, reminding us that clinging to permanence blinds us to the beauty of change. It may be that entropy is the universal lullaby, singing all things toward rest. Stars dim, bodies tire, civilizations decline, but not in tragedy, rather in inevitability. Renewal lies in the surrender, in the acceptance that endings are also beginnings. To sleep each night is to practice this truth in miniature. We let the day dissolve into disorder, and yet from that dissolution we awaken renewed. Perhaps this is why entropy feels less like a threat and more like a comfort when understood deeply. It assures us that nothing is static, that even in decline there is transformation. Just as autumn leaves fall to nourish the soil, just as stars scatter their ashes to build planets, so too do our endings contribute to the tapestry of renewal. The arrow of time points forward, but along its path creation and dissolution are inseparable companions. In this way, entropy is not only a scientific principle, but a philosophy of rest. It teaches us to let go, to trust that dissolution is not emptiness, but transition. The universe, in its grand sleep cycles, follows this law faithfully, and we, as small echoes of its rhythm, follow it too. To sleep, to dream, to forget, to age, all are threads in the greater fabric of entropy and renewal. And so, as we drift each night into the quiet scatter of thought, into the slow fading of awareness, we are participating in the same story that guides galaxies. Entropy carries us into silence, but renewal is already waiting there, hidden within the hush. Every night, when we close our eyes, an entire universe forms within us. Dreams unfold in landscapes that never existed, with characters we have never met, stitched together by the quiet hand of imagination. They rise out of nothing, burn brightly for a moment, then dissolve back into silence. These inner universes feel fleeting, yet they echo something far grander. The possibility that the cosmos itself may be a dream unfolding from hidden layers of reality. To dream is to witness creation in miniature. Out of fragments of memory and glimmers of sensation, the brain constructs coherent worlds. Neurologists describe how electrical impulses spark across networks, weaving disparate images into seamless narratives. But from the inside, dreams feel more than electrical. They feel alive. They carry emotion, symbolism, and mystery. And in this paradox lies the mirror. Just as dreams seem real while they last, so might our waking universe be a dream within a deeper mind. Some philosophers have dared to suggest exactly this. The ancient Vedic texts spoke of the universe as a cosmic dream, arising and dissolving in cycles, sustained by a consciousness far beyond our own. In Greek thought, Plato imagined reality as shadows, suggesting that what we perceive may only be a faint reflection of a higher truth. Today, physicists and cosmologists echo these intuitions with startlingly similar questions. Could our universe be a simulation, a construct, or a projection? If so, whose dream are we inhabiting? Dreams and universes both emerge from hidden substrates. A dream grows from the sleeping brain, invisible to the dreamer until it blossoms. A universe grows from laws, constants, and quantum seeds, invisible to us before they erupted into matter and time. Both are bounded by rules. Dreams obey the fluid, symbolic rules of imagination, while universes obey the steady laws of physics. Yet both feel internally real, coherent from within, even if fragile from without. The multiverse hypothesis stretches this dreamlike vision further. Just as the mind can generate countless dreamscapes, some theories suggest the cosmos may generate countless universes, each with different physical laws, each a unique dream within the grander sleep of reality. We may live in just one of these dreams, unaware of the others swirling beyond our horizon. The thought is both dizzying and soothing. Perhaps reality is infinite creativity, endlessly experimenting, endlessly unfolding. In the laboratory of the mind, dreams serve important roles. They process memories, regulate emotions, and allow the brain to rehearse scenarios. In this sense, dreams are not illusions, but vital acts of renewal. Might universes serve a similar purpose on a cosmic scale? Perhaps each universe is a rehearsal, a way for reality to explore possibility, to test variations of law and form. Like dreams, some may collapse quickly, some may flourish into complexity, and some, like ours, may last long enough for life to emerge and ask these questions. When we dream, we rarely know that we are dreaming. Only upon awakening do we realize the unreality of what felt utterly true. This parallels our own position in the cosmos. We cannot yet step outside our universe to know whether it is the fundamental reality or a fleeting dream. We live immersed, unable to awaken to the vantage beyond. Yet perhaps death, or the end of the universe itself, is a kind of awakening into the larger frame. The poetic resonance between dreaming and cosmology touches something deep within us. It reframes existence not as a rigid machine, but as a fluid act of imagination. To live inside a dreamlike cosmos is to accept that meaning may not be absolute but emergent, woven moment by moment like a narrative unfolding in sleep. It softens the edges of despair, for if all is a dream, then endings are never final. They are dissolutions that make room for new stories. Quantum mechanics sharpens this mystery. At its heart lies the strange idea that particles exist in superpositions, multiple states at once, until observed. Reality at its smallest scales appears indeterminate, as though awaiting a dreamer's gaze to crystallize it into form. Some interpretations even propose that consciousness itself plays a role in shaping reality, much as it shapes the fluid imagery of dreams. In this sense, the universe may not simply be a dream, but a dream in which the dreamers help decide what is real. There is also comfort in the symmetry. Our nightly dreams vanish upon waking, leaving traces in memory, echoes of something that once felt infinite. The universe, too, may one day vanish into silence, leaving behind traces in other dimensions or seeds for new realities. Neither dream nor cosmos is wasted, for both are acts of expression, temporary but meaningful, ephemeral yet luminous. To imagine the universe as a dream is not to diminish it, but to elevate it. Dreams matter to us because they move us, even though we know they dissolve. The universe, with its galaxies and suns and fleeting lives, may be just as transient and just as precious. Its impermanence sharpens its beauty. Its fragility makes it luminous. If reality is a dream, then we are not just observers but participants, part of the story unfolding in the cosmic mind. And perhaps the most profound parallel is this: we dream because we must. The brain requires it not as indulgence, but as necessity. Perhaps reality too dreams because it must. Perhaps the cosmos itself needs these fleeting universes, these cycles of expansion and dissolution, as part of its own rhythm of being. Just as the body cannot live without sleep, maybe reality cannot exist without dreaming itself into form. When we next close our eyes, we can imagine that the dream we enter is not separate from the stars, but is kin to them. Our inner landscapes, our fleeting narratives, are microcosms of the greater dreaming that birth galaxies. Each dream we have is a reminder that universes can arise from silence, blaze briefly with experience, and dissolve again, only to begin anew. We are dreamers within a dream, universes within universes, moments within eternity. And as we drift into sleep, we become part of the same mystery that carries galaxies into being. Silence is the canvas upon which everything is painted. In the stillness of space before the birth of galaxies, silence reigned. There was no sound, no movement, no vibration, only an unbroken hush. Silence was not the absence of meaning, but the waiting womb of it, the uncarved stone before the sculptor's touch. And from this stillness came awakening, the eruption of energy, the birth of stars, the beginning of time. We know silence intimately, though we often avoid it. In the quiet of night's sleep, when our breath deepens and thoughts dissolve, silence cradles us. It is there, in that stillness, that the body heals and the mind restores itself. The cycle is simple. Silence allows renewal, and renewal allows awakening. On the grandest scale, the cosmos seems to obey this same rhythm. Vast ages of silence give way to luminous awakenings. Consider the universe's earliest moments. For nearly 380,000 years after the Big Bang, there was no light as we know it. The cosmos was a hot, opaque fog, soundless and blind. Then came a sudden awakening. The universe cooled, atoms formed, and the first light burst forth, flooding the newborn cosmos with radiance. Silence had given way to brilliance, and the awakening reshaped everything that followed. Silence is not merely a lack of sound, but a fertile potential. In sleep, silence allows neurons to reset, memories to consolidate, and emotions to settle. In the universe, silence is the quiet interval between creation and dissolution, a pause that allows structures to form, galaxies to grow, and life to emerge. Silence is not empty. It is filled with the possibility of awakening. Species vanish, planets cool, stars collapse. Each ending brings with it a quiet that feels like loss. Yet endings are rarely permanent in the universe. A star's death, though silent and final to its own light, gives birth to heavier elements, carbon, oxygen, iron, that seed new worlds and new life. Silence in one corner becomes awakening in another. The cycle mirrors our own rhythms of sleep and waking. Every night, consciousness dissolves into silence, a temporary extinction of the self. And every morning it returns, renewed, reawakened. In this way, our lives echo the universe's grand cycle, periods of silence alternating with bursts of awareness, quiet dissolutions followed by luminous emergences. Cosmic silence is not confined to the past. It surrounds us now, stretching in every direction. Between galaxies lies an ocean of dark, soundless void. Space is vast beyond comprehension, and most of it is silence, cold, empty, waiting. Yet within this silence, galaxies swirl, stars ignite, and planets awaken with life. Silence does not oppose life, it sustains it. Without silence, there would be no stage for existence to unfold upon. Scientists searching the skies for extraterrestrial intelligence call it the Great Silence. Despite decades of listening, no clear signal has come from the stars. The universe appears mute, unresponsive. Some find this silence unsettling, a reminder of our possible loneliness. But silence may not mean absence. Just as the forest at night is filled with life that hides from human senses, the cosmic silence may conceal awakenings beyond our detection. Silence also carries the promise of future awakening. The universe continues to expand, stars continue to die, and eventually silence may once again reign supreme. Some cosmologists foresee a heat death, where energy spreads so thinly that no new structures can form. Others imagine cycles where silence folds back into awakening, birthing new universes beyond our own. Whichever vision proves true, silence is never final. It is always the threshold of something else. In our personal lives, silence is often the prelude to insight. Moments of stillness, when we pause between thoughts or breathe deeply before sleep, often give rise to clarity. We awaken from silence with a new perspective, a fresh vision. The cosmos seems to do the same. It pauses in long epochs, then awakens with stars, galaxies, or perhaps entirely new realities. Silence, whether human or cosmic, is never barren. There is a profound comfort in realizing that silence and awakening are not opposites, but partners. Without silence, awakening cannot occur. Without awakening, silence would remain potential, never expressed. They depend on each other as sleep depends on waking, as night depends on day. The rhythm is eternal. Imagine drifting to sleep tonight. You surrender your thoughts, let silence rise around you, and dissolve into its depths. Hours later you awaken, renewed. Now imagine the universe itself doing the same. Vast stretches of cosmic silence followed by luminous awakenings, each cycle nourishing the next. In this way, our nightly rhythm mirrors the rhythm of reality itself. Perhaps this is why silence feels so intimate to us. It is not merely absence, it is recognition. When we sit in silence, we are aligning with the universe's own heartbeat, its pulse of pause and renewal. When we awaken from silence, we are participating in the same cosmic cycle that has carried galaxies into being. The universe is not a static machine forever grinding forward. It is a sleeper and a dreamer, a being that knows silence and knows awakening. To see ourselves as part of this cycle is to feel less alone, less fragile. We are woven into the very fabric of silence, and when we awaken, It is the universe itself that opens its eyes through us. In the end, silence is not something to fear, but to embrace. It is the soft ground upon which all awakenings grow. It is the pause between heartbeats, the space between thoughts, the stillness between stars. And when we learn to rest within it, we find that silence is not emptiness. It is the promise of a new beginning. So as the universe sleeps and awakens, as stars fall quiet and galaxies bloom, we too participate in this rhythm. Our sleep, our dreams, our awakenings are small mirrors of the cosmic cycle. And in that reflection, we glimpse something timeless. The great truth that silence is not the end, but the beginning of everything. Entropy is the slow drift of order into disorder, the steady spreading of energy until it can no longer be gathered back. It is the arrow of time pointing one way only, reminding us that all things eventually unravel. In science, entropy is often described as inevitable decline, the fading of structure into randomness. Yet hidden in its quiet march is a paradox. Entropy also gives rise to renewal. When a star exhausts its fuel, entropy overtakes it. The furnace dims, fusion halts, and the once vibrant star collapses. But this dissolution is not an ending alone. From the scattered ashes come the heavy elements that form planets, oceans, and the very cells of our bodies. What seems like decay is also creation. Entropy clears the old so that the new may arise. In our own lives, entropy appears in the gradual loosening of memory, the weakening of bodies, the fading of youth. Yet this too is part of renewal. Old cells die so that new ones may grow. Neural pathways prune themselves to make space for learning. Sleep itself is an act of entropy and renewal. The day's experiences are broken down, reorganized, and restored into new patterns of understanding. Disorder and order dance together, each feeding the other. Entropy can be imagined as the universe's form of forgetting. Just as we cannot hold onto every memory, the cosmos cannot preserve every arrangement of energy. Yet forgetting is not failure. In dreams, the fragments of forgotten thoughts combine into something unexpected, something fresh. In the universe, the scattering of energy allows new forms to emerge, new awakenings to take shape. For billions of years, the universe has been flowing toward greater entropy. Yet within that river of dissolution, islands of renewal appear. Stars flare into existence. Galaxies spiral into order. Life blooms in countless forms. Even though the larger tide is one of dispersal, local eddies swirl against it, creating beauty, structure, and complexity. These eddies are temporary, but within their brevity lies meaning. The renewal born from entropy is not eternal, it too must dissolve. But perhaps eternity does not require permanence. Perhaps eternity is found in the endless rhythm of dissolution and rebirth, silence and awakening. Like sleep and waking, entropy and renewal alternate endlessly, one always preparing the way for the other. Philosophers have long wondered whether entropy is a story of despair or of wisdom. If everything unravels, why build? Why love? Why hope? The answer may lie in renewal. To know that things fade is to cherish them more deeply. To know that structures collapse is to value the fragile beauty of their brief existence. Renewal is not the denial of entropy, but its gift, the promise that endings are also beginnings in disguise. In the human heart, entropy teaches tenderness. We know that relationships change, that time alters us, that nothing lasts unchanged. And yet this knowledge makes love more urgent, more luminous. Renewal flows from acceptance. Just as forests rely on the scattering of seeds and the falling of leaves, so too do we rely on loss and change to bring forth new seasons of life. On the grandest scale, entropy may one day bring the universe to silence, its energy thinned into stillness. But even then, renewal may find a way. Some scientists imagine cycles of collapse and rebirth, universes budding from the remains of others. Others suggest that quantum fluctuations may spark new realities from the quietest silence. If renewal exists at every scale, from the cells in our bodies to the stars in the sky, it may exist beyond the life of our universe as well. When we fall asleep, we enter a small entropy of our own. Thoughts scatter, awareness dissolves, memory fragments. And yet from this disorder comes renewal. The brain restores itself, dreams weave fragments into meaning, and we awaken refreshed. Our nightly surrender to entropy mirrors the universe's great surrender, each cycle containing within it the seed of rebirth. In this way, entropy is not the enemy of life, but its quiet partner. Without dissolution, there would be no room for renewal. Without forgetting, there would be no space for discovery. Without endings, there would be no beginnings. Entropy teaches us that all things are transient, and renewal assures us that all things are connected. Together they form the deep rhythm of existence, a rhythm we live each day, each night, each breath. Dreams are often described as private theaters of the mind, fragile stories stitched together from memory, imagination, and emotion. Yet when we look more deeply, they resemble something greater, a rehearsal of the cosmos itself, remembering fragments of what it once was. Just as stars scatter their elements across space and life reassembles them into form, dreams take the scattered impressions of our days and weave them into patterns. They are not random noise, but the whisper of memory itself attempting to find coherence. To dream is to step into a world where time folds, where past and present intermingle, and where fragments of experience return in unexpected forms. A childhood street reappears beside an ocean we have never seen. A lost loved one walks again, unchanged by years. In these strange reunions, the mind does something remarkable. It remembers not only with clarity, but with invention. Dreams do not simply replay. They reassemble. They remake. They become a living metaphor for how the universe remembers itself, through endless recombination, through order emerging out of fragments. Science tells us that dreams are part of the brain's process of memory consolidation. Experiences from the day are sifted, sorted, and strengthened. Some details are kept, others discarded. This selective remembering is a kind of evolution, where the most meaningful or useful fragments endure. But perhaps it is also more than that. Perhaps dreams reveal the essence of memory itself, not a perfect archive, but a living, breathing act of reconstruction. In this way, memory is closer to art than to record. When stars collapse, when galaxies scatter, when civilizations fall, the universe too engages in a kind of dreaming. What remains is not what was, but the fragments of what once existed reassembled into something new. The carbon in our blood, the iron in our veins, the calcium in our bones. These are the remembered pieces of ancient stars. We are quite literally dreams of the cosmos given flesh. Every breath is an act of remembrance, every heartbeat a rhythm inherited from the stars. Dreams also reveal the porousness of self. In waking life, we cling to identity, to the boundaries of who we believe we are. But in dreams, those boundaries dissolve. We shift into other bodies, other times, other places. We become both observer and participant, both creator and creation. The universe too resists fixed identity. It shifts, evolves, expands. Galaxies are born, die, and merge just as dream selves rise and fall within the landscape of sleep. The dissolving boundaries of dreams mirror the dissolving boundaries of cosmic identity. Philosophers have long asked whether consciousness is the universe becoming aware of itself. If so, perhaps dreams are the moments when that awareness looks backward as much as forward. To dream is to remember not only our own stories, but echoes of deeper patterns, archetypes older than any individual life. Floods, fires, journeys, transformations. Such motifs recur across cultures and epochs, as if humanity shares a collective dream. And what is myth if not the universe's memory spoken through us? The most ancient myths describe the cosmos as emerging from chaos, as born from dreams of gods or the breath of silence. These stories, told long before science, carry within them the intuition that reality itself is dreamlike, that creation is an act of remembering something once forgotten. Modern physics, in its own language, suggests something similar, that particles carry the memory of their quantum entanglements, that the universe remembers its earliest conditions in the faint afterglow of the cosmic microwave background. Everywhere, memory endures. In our nightly journeys, we experience what the universe itself enacts, forgetting and remembering in endless cycles. Sleep dissolves the structures of the day, dreams reassemble them, and waking restores us anew. The cosmos too forgets, stars die, structures collapse, but then remembers by weaving fragments into new galaxies, new worlds, new lives. The parallel is striking. As above, so below. Our dreaming minds are miniature mirrors of the cosmic dream. But there is another way to see dreams, not only as memory, but as prophecy. Dreams anticipate, prepare, and imagine. They simulate futures, test possibilities, and rehearse responses. In this way, dreams are not simply remembering, but also imagining what could be. Is the universe itself engaged in such imagining? Every cycle of destruction and rebirth may be its own rehearsal, its own dreaming forward into forms not yet realized. The creativity of the cosmos, like that of the dreaming mind, is endless. To view dreams as the universe remembering itself is to see ourselves not as isolated beings, but as participants in a larger story. Our private dreams connect us to the oldest dream of all, the unfolding of reality itself. When we awaken with a fragment of a dream, when an image lingers though its meaning fades, perhaps it is a reminder that we are echoes of something vast, carrying within us the memory of stars, the memory of silence, the memory of beginnings. Dreams soften the finality of endings. They allow the dead to live again, the lost to be found, the past to return. The universe, too, does not allow anything to vanish entirely. Energy transforms, matter reconfigures, information may never be truly lost. What disappears in one form is remembered in another. Just as dreams carry us back to what we thought was gone, the cosmos carries forward what it has always been. When you next fall into sleep, imagine that you are not only dreaming your own life, but that you are participating in the dream of the universe itself. Each image, each story, each impossible shift is part of a larger remembering. You are both dreamer and dream. And when you awaken, you carry with you the same truth the cosmos carries in every star and every cell. Nothing is ever entirely forgotten. All of reality is memory reassembled, silence given voice, eternity dreaming itself into time. There is a moment in sleep that exists between the deep immersion of dreams and the gentle return to waking life. It is not quite sleep and not quite wakefulness. It is a hush, a breathless pause, a liminal space where the self feels suspended. In this quiet threshold, time slows, thought dissolves, and awareness lingers in a stillness that is both delicate and profound. We rarely remember this moment, yet it may be the most essential of all, for it is here that the mind rests completely, neither lost in dream nor burdened by the demands of the day. This silence before awakening mirrors the silence that once preceded creation itself. Long before galaxies spun, before matter coalesced, there was an unfathomable quiet. Cosmologists describe the early universe as a state of near-perfect symmetry, where no structure yet existed, where everything was potential and nothing yet formed. Out of this stillness came the great unfolding, the vast expansion that birthed all we know. Just as dawn waits in silence before light spills across the horizon, the cosmos too began in a pause that held infinite possibility. Within our nightly cycles, this pause is essential. The body requires this stillness to restore itself, to balance the chaos of thought, to prepare for waking. Without it, we would emerge restless, unprepared, unfinished. The universe, too, holds such silences, those long intervals between epochs, the dark ages after the first light faded but before the first stars were born, the vast stretches of seeming emptiness that precede new forms of order. Silence is not absence. Silence is the womb of renewal. When we listen closely to the silence before awakening, we notice its subtle texture. It is not blank, but alive with a soft hum, a faint vibration that feels both external and inward. Neuroscience suggests that in this state the brain produces slow, synchronized waves, almost like the breathing of the universe itself. These waves soothe, harmonize, and cleanse, quieting the noise of dreams and preparing the mind for clarity. On the largest scale, the cosmos too resonates with hidden vibrations, the afterglow of the Big Bang, the gravitational murmurs of colliding black holes, the quantum whispers that ripple through the fabric of space. Silence, it seems, is never truly silent. Spiritually, many traditions honor this threshold. In meditation, practitioners seek the stillness between breaths, the pause after exhalation and before inhalation, where awareness rests in pure presence. Mystics speak of the divine silence beneath all words, the quiet ground from which wisdom arises. The silence before awakening resembles this sacred pause. It is a return to source, a reminder that beneath all activity there is always stillness, endless, waiting. In nature, too, silence is everywhere. The forest at dawn holds its breath before birdsong begins. The ocean pauses between waves, a suspension of movement where all is calm. Even the heart rests between beats, a silence that makes rhythm possible. Without such pauses, there could be no harmony, no renewal. So it is with the silence before awakening, a reset, a gathering of energy before expression, the pause that makes life coherent. Metaphorically, this silence is the universal cycle of forgetting and remembering. In sleep, we forget ourselves. In dreams, we wander through shifting identities. But before awakening, in that silent threshold, all dissolves. It is a forgetting so complete that it borders on nothingness. And yet, from that emptiness, memory returns, the self returns, the world reassembles. This silence is the hinge between absence and presence, the turning point where forgetting becomes remembering. The universe itself seems to follow this rhythm. Stars are extinguished, galaxies fall quiet, civilizations vanish, but silence is never the end. It is only the pause before the next unfolding. The cosmos sleeps and wakes again and again, on scales of time we can barely fathom. And in our nightly silence, we mirror this eternal rhythm. To dwell in the silence before awakening is to experience a peace rarely touched in waking life. Here, the anxieties of the day dissolve. The mind is free from story, free from striving. It is pure being, untouched by past or future. Many who have entered deep meditation or profound stillness describe it as an encounter with the eternal, not an escape from reality, but a meeting with its deepest truth. In this space, the boundary between self and universe dissolves. There is no dream self to protect, no waking self to assert. There is only awareness resting in awareness itself. And yet, inevitably, silence yields. The body stirs. Light begins to press against closed eyelids. Thought resumes its restless flow. We awaken into the world, carrying only the faintest trace of that silence within us. But even unremembered, it remains. It lingers as calm, as quiet strength, as a reminder that beneath all noise, silence is always waiting. This silence before awakening is more than a stage of sleep. It is a reflection of cosmic truth. It is the universe whispering through our biology that renewal is possible, that endings are never final, that beneath every story lies a deeper stillness. It teaches us that to awaken fully, we must first pass through quiet, just as the universe itself once passed through silence before bursting into light. So the next time you rise from sleep, pause for a moment. Though you may not remember the silence you passed through, it has already shaped you, restored you, prepared you. It has connected you to the rhythm of stars and galaxies, to the vast cycles of creation and dissolution. In that silence, you touch the infinite. And even as you open your eyes, breathe into the morning, and return to the day, know that you carry its memory still, a fragile but enduring thread, tying you to the great fabric of existence. Night comes again and again. It does not arrive as an intruder, but as a gentle inevitability, a soft return to something older than memory. With every setting of the sun, we are reminded that life is cyclical, not linear. Just as the stars emerge from dusk, so too does the mind drift into the hidden landscapes of sleep. It is a return we sometimes resist, yet it is also a homecoming. Within the night lies the restoration of body and spirit, and within its darkness glimmers the hidden symmetry of the universe itself. The eternal return of night is not merely the turning of Earth on its axis. It is a rhythm woven into the very fabric of existence. Every planet has its own night, its own silence, its own shadows that allow light to be defined. Even in the cosmos, where suns blaze without end, there are eclipses, dark intervals, and vast expanses where starlight cannot reach. Night is not absence, but counterpart, the balancing half of the cosmic breath. Without it, day would burn endlessly, consuming all in relentless exposure. With it, life is given cycles, pauses, and the grace of renewal. In our nightly descent into sleep, we rehearse the greater cycles of being. We surrender to darkness, dissolve into silence, and awaken once more into light. Each morning we rise as though reborn, carrying only fragments of what occurred in the unseen depths of night. This rhythm mirrors not only the turning of planets, but the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of stars, the endless weaving of time itself. Night is not an interruption, but a return, a reminder that all things move in spirals rather than straight lines. Throughout history, humans have looked upon night with awe, reverence, and sometimes fear. In its darkness, they saw mystery and possibility. Myths were born beneath its canopy of stars. Stories of gods, spirits, and ancestors unfolded in its silence. Night was the time when the boundaries between worlds grew thin, when dreams and visions spilled into waking life. The eternal return of night shaped not only the rhythms of the body, but the mythologies of the soul. Science, too, reminds us that night is never empty. It is not a void, but a laboratory of hidden processes. In the human body, night triggers repair. Cells regenerate, memories consolidate, the immune system strengthens. Sleep, governed by darkness, is a workshop of renewal. In the larger cosmos, night is the backdrop against which stars are born, galaxies cluster, and nebulae drift. The universe itself is threaded with cycles of illumination and shadow, creation and stillness, sound and silence. Night is the canvas upon which existence paints its most luminous patterns. Yet there is something deeper in this eternal return. Philosophers across time have wondered whether the cycles we live are not merely biological or planetary, but fundamental to reality itself. What if existence is not a one-way journey from beginning to end, but a vast repetition, asleep and waking on the grandest scale? What if the universe itself dreams, not once, but endlessly, spiraling through creation and dissolution in patterns that repeat across eternity? In Nietzsche's vision of eternal recurrence, life itself is fated to repeat each moment infinitely. Though daunting to the waking mind, this vision resonates with the truth of sleep. Every night we dissolve into darkness. Every morning we return. The cycle does not diminish us, it sustains us. Without it, the body would collapse, the mind would fragment. Perhaps the universe too relies upon its cycles of sleep and awakening, silence and creation, darkness and light, to sustain itself across unimaginable spans of time. The eternal return of night also whispers a lesson of acceptance. In its inevitability lies peace. Resistance to cycles brings suffering, but surrender brings harmony. We cannot hold the day forever, nor can we banish the night. Both are sacred. Sleep, then, is more than a biological necessity. It becomes a philosophy, a trust in the deeper rhythms of reality. To close the eyes each night is an act of faith, a small death that promises renewal, a yielding to forces larger than ourselves. There is also intimacy in the return of night. It brings us back to ourselves in ways the day cannot. Day scatters attention outward into tasks, obligations, movements. Night gathers it inward into silence, into dream, into memory. It is the time when the mind listens to its own whispers, when hidden emotions surface, when unspoken truths are processed in the language of images. In the eternal return of night, we meet ourselves again and again, each time a little changed, each time a little renewed. Night also unites us across time and culture. Wherever humans have lived, whatever stories they have told, the return of darkness has bound them together. The same stars that guided ancient travelers still shine above us. The same moon that poets revered still illuminates our nights. The same cycle of sleep and waking shapes every body, from the humblest creature to the most advanced mind. Night is a shared inheritance, a universal rhythm that belongs not to any one life, but to life itself. When seen this way, the return of night is not a closing, but an opening. It is not the shutting down of experience, but an invitation into deeper experience, the kind that exists beyond words, beyond thought. In sleep, we participate in mysteries of memory, healing, and dreaming. In the larger night of the cosmos, we participate in mysteries of creation and dissolution, silence and renewal. Night is not the end of the story, but the place where stories are rewritten. And so, as this reflection draws to its close, we return to the truth at its center. The fabric of reality itself may be a sleep cycle. Existence may be woven of awakenings and dissolutions, silences and bursts of creation. Night, in its inevitability, is not a flaw in the pattern but the loom upon which it is woven. Each time we sleep, we practice the rhythm of the universe, joining in its endless cycle of forgetting and remembering, dissolving and returning. When night falls again, as it always does, welcome it. See in its shadows the echo of the universe's own silences. Feel in its stillness the same pause that existed before the first stars ignited. Trust in its rhythm, as countless beings before you have trusted, and let yourself surrender. For in that surrender lies connection, to yourself, to the earth, to the cosmos. Night is not only a return, it is a communion, a reminder that we belong to the great cycle, that we are threads in the vast and recurring weave. And when morning comes, as it always does, know that night will return, not to steal time from you, but to give it back reshaped, renewed. The eternal return of night is the cosmos breathing through you, the universe dreaming through you. You are never separate from it. You are its witness, its participant, its expression. In every cycle of sleep and waking, you are practicing eternity. And in that practice lies the deepest peace, the knowledge that endings are never final, that every silence holds within it the promise of awakening, and that night, eternal and kind, will always return. When we reach the end of a night's cycle, it can feel as though something final has taken place, as if the dreams have ended, the silence has passed, and waking life has returned with its demands. But in truth, nothing is final. The very moment we open our eyes, the next cycle has already begun. Awakening itself is the first step toward another descent, for each day carries within it the seeds of its coming night. Just as the rising sun guarantees its eventual setting, every breath of wakefulness leans toward sleep, every step of life moves toward renewal. To imagine the universe through this rhythm is to see it not as a single story moving to an ultimate end, but as a perpetual return. The cosmos drifts through endless cycles of creation and dissolution, of birth and forgetting, of silence and awakening. Galaxies form, shine, collapse, and give way to others. Civilizations rise, flourish, and vanish into myth, leaving behind traces that seed the future. Even the atoms in your body, forged in ancient stars, have already lived countless cycles of existence and will one day join others in yet another form. This is the eternal dream, the universe forever dreaming itself anew. Sleep, then, is not merely a human necessity, but a mirror of this universal law. In dreams, entire worlds are created and dissolved without consequence. We wander through cities that vanish, meet people who were never real, live whole lifetimes in a single night. And then, with the dawn, it all dissolves. Yet each night it begins again. Our dreams are small rehearsals of cosmic cycles, reminders that we are participants in a grander dream. Philosophers have long wondered whether reality itself might be a dream, not an illusion to dismiss, but a living act of creation unfolding moment by moment. Ancient Hindu philosophy speaks of Vishnu, the cosmic dreamer, whose slumber contains infinite universes. With each exhalation a cosmos is born. With each inhalation, it dissolves into silence, only to emerge once more. This vision resonates with modern cosmology, which describes cycles of expansion and collapse, inflation and stillness. The metaphor of dreaming may be closer to truth than we realize. Even in the sciences of the mind, dreams retain their mystery. We know they help to repair memory, process emotion, and balance the psyche. Yet their surreal quality, the fluidity of time, the strange recombination of familiar places and faces, remains unexplained. Perhaps it is because dreams are practice, nightly rehearsals of creation itself. In dreams, the brain is not bound by physical law. It generates realities, suspends them, dissolves them with ease. This may reflect, on a smaller scale, what the universe does. Creation is not laborious, it is playful. Galaxies are born as lightly as we dream of oceans. Stars dissolve as effortlessly as we forget a fading vision. Seen this way, the cycles of sleep and dream are not private to us. They are woven into the deepest fabric of existence. The silence before awakening is not only our silence, it is the silence of the universe. The dreams that pass through us are not merely personal. They are echoes of the cosmic dream, glimpses of the same creativity that shaped galaxies. We are not separate from it. We are expressions of it, living fragments of the eternal rhythm. And what of the day? If the night rehearses the universe's cycles, then so does waking life. Each day we build, we love, we struggle, we create, and we destroy. By night it dissolves into silence, only to begin again. Even our lives, from birth to death, echo this same law. We emerge from mystery, live our span of years, and return to mystery once more. And yet even death is not final, for the matter and energy that composed us will dream again in new forms. To dwell on this truth is to find comfort in impermanence. If everything ends, it also begins again. The night is never the last night. The silence is never the last silence. The dream is never the final dream. Reality itself is a cycle of return, and we are carried within it like waves upon a vast ocean. Perhaps this is why sleep brings such profound peace. It is a rehearsal of eternity, a nightly immersion in the rhythm that governs all things. In sleep we surrender to forgetting, but in that surrender we are reminded that forgetting is not loss. It is renewal. It is the soil from which awakening grows. Just as forests require decay to nourish their roots, we require silence and dissolution to awaken fresh and whole. There is a gentle invitation hidden in this perspective. If the universe is always dreaming itself anew, then so can we. We are not fixed beings, bound to a single story. Each night, as we fall asleep, we are given the gift of forgetting ourselves so that in the morning we may awaken as something slightly new. The one who opens their eyes is never exactly the same as the one who closed them. Each day is an opportunity to dream differently, to awaken more closely aligned with the deep rhythm of existence. The fabric of reality, then, is not a static cloth. It is a weaving that unravels and rewinds endlessly, threads dissolving into silence only to be rewoven into new patterns. Our task is not to resist the unraveling, but to trust it, to surrender to its rhythm, to understand that when the threads fall apart, they are preparing for a new design. So tonight, as you lie down, remember that you are participating in something vast. Your breath will slow, your mind will dissolve, and you will drift into dreams that echo the creativity of the cosmos itself. You will enter silences that mirror the stillness before galaxies were born. And in the morning, when you awaken, you will not awaken only to your day, but to the eternal cycle, the same rhythm that has carried stars and worlds across billions of years. The universe is always dreaming itself anew, and you are one of its dreams.